for God. Come and learn about Him. Hear the Bible with Pastor Adam.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the Bible with me. Thanks for joining us again. Who remembers where we are in the Bible? Which book? Exodus. Yes. We are in Exodus. Today we are in Exodus chapters 11 and 12. And last week you might remember that we talked about the plagues that God sent to the Egyptian king, the Pharaoh, as a consequence for not letting the Hebrew people, the Israelites, leave. Remember, the Pharaoh was treating them very harshly, and they were oppressed there in Egypt. They were suffering. So God used Moses to start the Exodus, start the exit from Egypt. And so God was sending these consequences to Pharaoh. So we talked about 9 plagues last week. We talked about the river turning blood red, and the locusts, and the hail, and the frogs, and the blisters on the skin, and all these things that God did. But the Pharaoh was stubborn, and he wouldn't let them leave. So God said to Moses at the very end of where we left off last week, he said, I will bring one more plague on Egypt, and after that the Pharaoh will let you go. So that's where we are this week. Exodus chapter 11 and 12, the 10th plague. Moses went to see Pharaoh with a new message. God says this to you. Every firstborn son in Egypt will die tonight. There will be great crying and wailing. Only the Hebrew sons will be spared because God will protect the Israelites. Then Moses left the palace. Moses told the Israelites to mark their houses with the blood of a lamb. Paint it over their doorpost. Their houses would be passed over when the plague came. God would pass over the houses of the Israelites when he brought this 10th plague to the Egyptian people. It's the name of the Jewish festival celebrating God's rescue to his people. You might recognize it. It's something that at Aletheia we honor once a month. More on that later. So Moses left the palace, and he told them to mark their houses with the blood of a lamb, for when the plague came, God would pass over. And that night at midnight, the plague came over the land, and all the firstborn sons of Egypt died. Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron. He was broken and sad, for his own firstborn son had even died. Go, he said, leave my people, take your flocks and herds, and go. Get out. The Israelites left in a hurry. They took pans of bread dough, for they did not have time to add the yeast and bake the bread. So they just took the pans of dough. And on their way, they stopped and asked people to give them clothing and gold and silver. The Egyptians gave the Israelites everything they could, and God had put sympathy into their hearts. It's an intense story. Passover. So yes, you might recognize it. It's something we honor once a month at Aletheia, and when we do it in memory of Christ, because Christ, on the festival of Passover, he shared a moment with his disciples. You remember the story. He shared a moment with his disciples, and he said, he is the fulfillment, the final fulfillment of this Passover. And when we take it, we do it to remember God and to remember specifically Jesus and what he would go on to do and what he did do for us when he died on the cross, when he took our sin away from us. So this was the beginning of that annual celebration of the Jews celebrating the Passover for what God did do for them and how he brought them out of Egypt. So it's something you're going to hear about a lot as you grow up in the church and as you celebrate the communion with us at Aletheia. So it's important to know this history and where it came from for the Jews. They painted the blood of a lamb. We don't need to do that anymore because God used his son as the blood that was spilled for us so that we can be saved. So, remember this moment. Remember this moment in history. It's important and it's significant even for us because of who Jesus is. Next week we're going to be talking about them actually leaving now and what that looked like. It gets pretty intense. But that's for another week. Exodus chapters 13 through 15. So, join me next week, guys. See you later.